Hello and welcome to Get Yourself Optimized. I'm your host, Stephan Spencer, and today I am so delighted to have Karen Noé with us. Karen is a renowned psychic medium, spiritual counselor, and alternative healer with the 2-year waiting list. She's the author of Your Life After Their Death, Through the Eyes of Another, The Rainbow Follows the Storm, and We Consciousness. So wonderful, wonderful books. She's also the founder of the Angel Quest Center and host of the Angel Quest radio show. She's an instructor for the Omega Institute with courses coming out in October and an Angel Oracle card deck coming out in November, which I'm going to get. Thank you for joining us today, Karen.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on.
Now, I've got to tell you, and I'm not sure if I've told you this before, we had some chats before this interview. The way that I found you was not a random chance occurrence. It's one of those synchronistic events. And I knew when I was led to you, essentially, I was shown you that we were supposed to talk. And more importantly, I was supposed to learn from you. And I attended your webinar that you did for the Edgar Cayce Center, the ARE Foundation. You were featured on the homepage of the website. I got an intuitive hit as I was reading from some materials from another medium, Michelle White Dove. She mentioned Nostradamus and Edgar Cayce. And for some reason, Edgar Cayce just jumped off of the screen when I read that. It was a huge document. And those two words meant something that I needed to explore. So I Googled Edgar Cayce's name. I'd never heard of him before. Of course, he's the famous clairvoyant who channeled his higher self back in the 1900s. I had no idea what I would get by going and Googling him, but then I ended up on the ARE Foundation's website, edgarcayce.org, and there you were, featured with a webinar about how to connect and contact, receive messages from your loved ones, your departed loved ones, and from angels. And that popped for me too, and I signed up for that. And then right after, it was really late in the night when I attended. So because I was in Israel at the time, and I finally went to bed after it finished at 4 in the morning or something. And I had the most beautiful, prophetic, profound dream, otherworldly. It was clearly from the higher realms, from the heavens, that this dream came to me, unlike anything I've ever had, received before. I'll never forget it. And it was because I attended your webinar and I asked for a dream like you had instructed. Ask for a dream, ask to be woken up. I was woken up at 7 a.m. that next morning. Tears streaming down my eyes. It was just the most beautiful, beautiful dream. I had specifically asked Lakshmi, who's one of my guides, an ascended master who's assisting me on my journey, and she delivered that incredible dream. So thank you for that.
My goodness, I'd love to hear about it.
Oh, well, we can for sure talk about it. Let's talk about that when we get to the section about dreams and
Sure.
how to receive dreams and messages through those dreams.
Sure.
So I wanted to share, like, that was such an impactful experience this year back in April, or was it March? I think it might have been March, but that was just incredible, and you made that possible. So thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so glad you tuned in. It's funny, last weekend, 2 days ago, I did a seminar with the ARE, with Edgar Cayce Center, and it was all morning from 9:30 to 1, so it was good.
Oh, wow. Is there a replay for that?
Listeners could tune in, check out the Edgar Cayce Center. It's a wonderful place.
It is, yes. In fact, they have multiple branches, so you can maybe go and visit one of the centers that's in your local area. There's one in the Chicagoland area. I'm not in that part of the country, but then there was a Akashic Records course on how to read the Akashic Records. Mm-hmm. And I felt guided to that one too, and that was incredible. I was able to open my own records, and that's another intersection in our lives. Is we were supposed to do an interview back in April, And that didn't happen. Instead, you ended up on my wife Orion's show, Stellar Life, and that was a beautiful interview. I'm going to include that, listener, by the way, in the show notes of this episode, so you can listen to that one too. But we didn't end up having our interview as scheduled because I was out saving a cat. And the reason I was able to save that cat and know that it even had a problem that needed, like this was a stray cat, and needing assistance or it was going to die was because I opened my own Akashic Records and I asked my guides for guidance on what to do. And the answer was take this cat to the vet. I've never taken an animal that wasn't my own pet to the vet before. So it was a little bit of a stretch outside my comfort zone, but I did it. I didn't know where to take this cat, so I got some guidance on where. I was in Tel Aviv. I've never been to any vet in the Tel Aviv area, so I got some wonderful guidance on that, and that happened also because the Edgar Cayce Foundation, and but a different branch of it, and Christina Cross was the person who taught me how to open my own records. Such a interesting set of circumstances, and we're all interconnected, and everything is connected. It's incredible.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. And how did you find out how the cat is?
She's doing much better. Turns
Good.
out that she was my pet in a past life, and she came into this incarnation to give me the opportunity to stretch outside my comfort zone and save her life.
And I'm so glad
And
you listened to your intuition and
yeah,
saved.
yeah. And a funny thing happened, not funny, but profound actually. I had a podcast interview the next day, not of my show, but I was on another show. I was on. I'm not going to say whose show, but she's a pretty famous author and entrepreneur. She told me before we started recording, because I told her the story of what happened. She said, "Well, my mom always said, you save a cat, you get a few extra years added to your life." Yeah. And I knew that was for me. I knew that was for me. I've never heard that expression before. I
Never
don't,
heard that either.
yeah. So I'm like, wow, that
I
was a
love how
beautiful,
that works.
amazing bonus.
Yeah.
That
Uh-huh.
wasn't why I did it. I just did it because it was the right thing to do. And I wanted to help this cat. She had a broken pelvis and she had a dislocated foot, and now she's healed. She walks with a little bit of a limp, but her pelvis is fully healed. She didn't need surgery. She just needed cage rest for a month, and we found a place for her to convalesce. I mean, she's still there. We're still paying month after month for her. We really need her to have a forever home. But
Right.
yeah, that I'm confident that's coming, and the whole thing about co-creation and having faith and belief, and then you co-create your reality. And I want to co-create a forever home for this wonderful little cat.
It has to be the best place that, ever, not just any home. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, first of all, let's start with your origin story. How did you end up being a medium, and maybe share some kind of profound learnings and messages that you received in those very early days?
Oh my gosh. Well, when I was a child, I would see things that would happen before they did. I would dream things that would happen before they did. My friends sometimes would say that I would freak them out. Those were their words. Like, how did you know that? And I said, I just thought everybody could do this. And in reality, we can, which we could talk about later. I just knew how to tune into this. And my dad used to take me to the racetrack. I don't go to the racetrack anymore because I'm an animal activist. But at that time, he would take me and I'd pick the winning horses, And I hate to use that example, but that's what happened. And he said I was lucky. Again, I don't go to the racetrack now. So I just want all the listeners to know that. Um, but
So,
in,
just
no,
let's stop for a second. So
yeah,
you could pick the winning horse, and then you or your dad would bet on that horse beforehand, and you guys would make a lot of money, and you'd be able to do that again and again.
my dad is and still is, he's in his 90s, he's a gambler. And he would bet, I didn't bet, I was a child. And I don't know what he did with the money, I'll be honest with you. But yes, I would pick the winning horses. And he said I was lucky. He used to take me with him to the horse races.
You were like the lucky charm for the gambler. That's funny.
I know. And I found during that time I was the luckiest when I was not, during that time, even then, I really liked to study and get all A's on my report card. And if I had any exams or tests, I couldn't really pick the winning horses when I was relaxed during the summer, during vacation. And that teaches us that when we're more on par with the energy of who we really are, which is love and peace and not stressed, we could tap into that intuition as well.
Right. So it's important to be not only not stressed, but in a higher vibration so that you kind of match the angelic realm with their vibration so you can tune in the best.
Exactly. And we could even talk about that a little bit, how to raise our vibration. But about 20, 25 years ago, I was going through a difficult time in my life. And I was sitting at the edge of my bed, just yelling at God. And I said, am I going to be okay? Give me a sign. And with that, I saw a light come towards me from the other side of the room. And my first response was, if you're not of God, please leave. I've since learned we are all of God. You know, at that time, I just thought God, light, but we all have God within us. That's another story in itself. In any case, I said, if you're not of God, please leave. But it continued to come towards me and enveloped me. And the most incredible peace came over me. At that time, I heard a voice that said, Luce Lucina, Bella Luce Lucina. And for those Italian listeners, it means light, beautiful light, little light, beautiful little light. And I've since learned that was St. Francis of Assisi, who's been guiding and protecting me ever since. St. Francis is the guide of animals and peace and so forth. And if you follow any of me on my books or on Facebook, you'll see my animal peace connection every day. So after that point, I started to feel the angels and deceased loved ones. And I didn't want people to think I was not in my right mind, so I didn't share the messages I received. Eventually, I gave in and started to give the messages that I was receiving, and the rest is history. I began to do healing, Reiki, energy healing in the back of a hair salon. That was many, many years ago. And when I was doing the healing, I started to receive messages from the person, for the person who was on the massage table. And I will never forget one of the first messages I ever received. The woman is lying there, I'm doing the Reiki on her, and somebody was trying to come through. His name was Robert, and he said he died in a car accident. And these messages come telepathically, not as a voice. And I'd love to teach people who are listening how they can receive messages as well. But at that time, I'm feeling, they're coming intuitively as thoughts. And then I see a picture of a kangaroo boxing the air, punching the air. Now, I'm in the United States, and I don't know many kangaroos that box each other. You know what I'm saying? So I said, oh, this can't mean anything. But finally, I gave in and I said, there's a gentleman named Robert coming through. He said he died in a car accident, but he's showing me a kangaroo with boxing gloves on. Well, the woman jumped off the table and screamed, and she said that's her friend Robert. He died in a car accident, and he boxed kangaroos in Australia. So I said, oh, wow, there's no way I would have known that, right? So the rest is history. I started to give the messages I was receiving, and the crazier the messages, the better, because they knew without a doubt it was their loved one. And since then, word has spread, but there have been messages when I have found missing money for, I'll give you that example.
Yeah, that's
One
a
time,
good one.
yeah, a woman wanted to come to see me, and I'm not taking any new clients because I'm booked 2 years ahead of time, and the people who've come to see me want to come back. So I said, you know what? Why don't you just come to a class? I teach classes similar to the one I gave for the ARA. And she was sitting in my classroom, and as I'm talking, a gentleman named Tom was coming through. And I said, he's saying he recently passed, and she raised her hand. She said, that's my dad. And she said, okay, if that's really him, where's the missing money? I said, I can only give you what he's giving me. And he started to show me. He showed me the basement of the attic. and he showed me pink insulation in the corner of the attic, and he lifted the insulation out and showed me there was a stash of money in there. And she said, no, I looked through the whole house and I didn't, there was no money there. I said, when you go home, check it out. So she went home, and I'm cleaning up after the class, and the phone starts to ring. And she said, Karen, this is amazing. I went home, looked under the pink insulation in the attic, and sure enough, there was a substantial amount of money stashed in there from my dad. So she said she knew without a doubt it was her dad. There's no way I would have known that. And things like that happen. That's the type of messages that come through, time and time again. And I could go on and on and on. But you know what? The most important thing I could teach everyone who's listening is not about what I can do. It's about what you can do. Because
Right.
I know without a doubt, all of you can do this as well.
Yeah. Well, a great case in point, one of my staff, she knew that you can ask for without a doubt sign because I learned that from you in your webinar. So she was talking to her mom in the car, but her mom had passed. She was by herself, but with her mom in spirit, right? And she wanted a without a doubt sign. Please, Mom, let me know without a doubt that you're here, that you're listening to what I'm saying, and I'm not just crazy talking to myself. She turns the corner, not even seconds later, like maybe 5 seconds later, and there is an owl on the road blocking her path. Yeah, she sent me the video of it. It's amazing. It stared her down for 5 minutes. It was absolutely her mom.
Amazing. See, all we have to do is ask for a sign. And then it's important to be patient and wait, and the sign will come when you least expect it. Not usually right away, but when it does, it's amazing. A lot of times you have to wait a little bit, but when I say without a doubt, it's something that normally wouldn't happen, like an owl being in your path, staring at you. That doesn't normally happen.
Right, right. Yeah, another example is a family member. Her grandma had recently passed, and she was watching the show Surviving Death on Netflix, and she didn't believe in this whole realm or anything supernatural at all, but she was just drawn to watching that show. Not a coincidence, of course. No randomness in this universe. So she's watching it, and she learns to ask for a sign, and she asks her grandma, just to see what would happen. And within minutes, again, it was less than a half hour later, she goes outside. On the driveway is a brochure that says, I love you, granddaughter.
Oh,
And it's got a picture of a music box, but not just any music box. It is the same music box that her grandmother had given her 30 some years ago.
Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps. I mean, and I could tell you some of the without a doubt signs from my clients and from myself. One of my favorite ones is of my friend Marion. I think I shared this with your wife, maybe not. I always tell people that when they come through with signs for us, our loved ones, they usually retain the same personality as they had when they were here on the physical plane. So if they were quiet, they're still quiet. If they were loud, they're still loud, and so forth. Well, my friend Marion passed, and the day she passed, I actually wrote her a letter. And I would tell everybody that's listening to write your deceased loved one a letter, telling them how much you love them and why. And at the end of the letter, say, give me a without a doubt sign to let me know that you're with me, that you're aware of what I just said to you. So the next day, I'm going to put mail in my mailbox. I'm walking down the steps to my house. And as I'm walking down the steps, there's a bird in my driveway. Now, Marion was loud, very loud in life. I'm walking down the steps to in my house, and in the driveway there is a bird screaming at the top of its lungs. I mean, like that. And I look over and I say, Marion, is that you? I walked down the path and put the letters in my mailbox, put the flag out so the mailman could take my letters. Well, the bird flew to the mailbox, and birds don't fly to us. They usually, they fly away from us, right? So the bird
Right.
flew to me, went on top of the mailbox, looking directly at me, screaming. So I'm looking at her and I said, "Oh my God, Marion, I love you so much." And I'm telling her this and I'm crying, and I turn around and my neighbor is looking at me like I've lost, and I didn't care. And I'm crying, and I had my cell phone in my pocket. I called my son who was in the house and I said, "Tim, come outside. Marion is here." And he said, "What?" I said, "Just come outside." I wanted him to witness what was happening. Well, the very next day, a mutual friend of ours, Carol, she called me and she said, "You're not going to believe what Marion did." I said, "I'll tell you what she did to me. What did she do to you?" And she said, "Karen, I just painted my kitchen. I opened up the sliding glass door. A bird flew in my house, pooped all over my walls, and then flew out. And she knew it was Marion. And she said, 'Thanks, Marion.'" Now, this doesn't end here. A year later, I'm at work and I have a waiting room, right? And I'm sitting there, and the people that are in the waiting room, they keep coming in and saying, "Karen, there's a bird slamming its head against the window, and it just keeps slamming its head, slamming its head." I said, "Oh my gosh, that's terrible." And I'm not thinking about Marion or anything like that. So I'm looking at it. I said, "Oh my God, I don't want him to hurt himself." I'm trying to open the window, trying to let the bird fly in, wouldn't come in. I went outside and I'm trying to coax the bird to fly away or come in, anything, but I didn't want it to get hurt. Wouldn't go away, just kept slamming its head, slamming its head. Well, it did this for about a week. And I look on Facebook and I see the same friend, Carol, posts on Facebook that there's a bird, you know what I'm going to say, slamming its head against the window for about a week. I said, "Oh my gosh, this has to be Marion." Because what are the chances that it's happening to both of us? Okay, so I called up a very close friend of her family, of Marion's family. I said, "What is going on?" I told her what was happening with me and Carol with the bird. And she said, "Oh my gosh, Marion's son was getting married that week, and it was a destination wedding." I can't remember where the wedding was. I believe it was in Mexico, but I can't remember where it was. So I knew Marion wanted them to know that she was aware of what was happening. And also, they were going to spread her ashes in right during the wedding ceremony in the destination wedding. As soon as she told the family members, the bird stopped by me and the bird stops by Carol slamming its head. So she just wanted her family to know that she was aware of what was going on with her son. I think now she was loud, so she came through with very loud messages. If you have a very quiet loved one, it won't happen in that fashion, but it'll happen with an owl,
Yeah.
with a brochure, things like that, without a doubt that there are around us.
Right. And if you ask, you have to be precise with your asking. I
Yes.
learned this is that if you just ask without a time frame, without any specifics, it's hard to get what is a without a doubt sign then in the time frame that you're looking for. So be precise.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Now, can you explain for our listener who's not familiar with the concept of a life review and just the whole karmic law of cause and effect? Like, things happen in our lives where we earn negative karma, and there are things that happen and we make choices and thus we earn positive karma. And this isn't something that is just in a little piggy bank somewhere in the heavens. This has a real profound, in our lifetime and in future lifetimes, consequence for us. Could you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. After we leave the physical body, after physical death, the energy of who we are continues. This is not something I think or believe. It's something I know without a doubt. Just as I know you're right there, I don't believe it. I know it.
Yeah.
And this is through the many years of doing messages, as well as listening to those who have had near death experiences. That is, those who were declared clinically dead and then come back to life to talk about what they have experienced. And what a life review is, you're able to see and feel how you have affected each person that you have come in contact with in your life, good, bad, or indifferent. You could feel the emotion, however you affected that person, as if they are you through their eyes, if that makes sense. Now, the reason why this works is because we are all one. And when we don't have the physical body anymore, we feel that essence of who we are, that we're connected to everyone and everything, because we don't have the physical body that separates us from someone else. Like right now, it seems like you're over there, I'm over here, your cat is over there, and so forth, and we're separate, but we are not. So you leave the physical body and you see that in an instant, how you affected people. Now, it doesn't mean if you did something that was not so nice that you are in eternity in hell or something like that. It means you're able to feel that emotion, how you affected the other person, as if it were you, and you say, ow, I shouldn't have done that, and you know better. So when they come through in appointments, they often come to me and they say, I shouldn't have hit you when your dad, and they go into detail, and they see that, and they say they're sorry. They come through with those very specific messages that no one would know, to show that they are able to see and feel how they've affected the living loved one that was in my office. And that goes for something that you did that was wonderful or good, something uplifting, even opening the door for somebody, how that made that person feel. But you know what? This is what I want to really stress, that you don't have to wait until it's too late to see the bigger perspective. After you leave the physical body, you see the bigger perspective, but you don't have to wait until that point. If you are able, or absolutely, try to see through the person's eyes, every person that you come in contact with. Now, you could create peace in your life right here and now, and peace in the other person's life as well. I hope that makes sense.
It not only makes sense, it is common sense. It is just so straightforward and obvious to me. And at the time that I was living my life as an agnostic, almost atheist, which is the first 42 years of this lifetime, I didn't believe in reincarnation. I didn't believe in the law of karma or anything. And I was just going through my life like a bull in a china shop. I mean, I wasn't a horrible person or anything, but I certainly wasn't that enlightened. I did find, though, that there were things that I just intuitively knew, even though I did not have a belief system of higher power or any of that. I knew not to, for example, curse somebody in my own mind. I never did that. I just didn't. I never thought to myself, "I wish you were dead" or whatever. That seemed off limits to me. And I think that was because of learnings I carried over from past lifetimes, in retrospect now.
Right. Oh, it's absolutely true. And the fact that we are all one, if you can understand this, even after we leave the physical body, we can sense that oneness in an instant. So whatever we do to ourselves or another affects everyone, right? So we have to treat ourselves with the respect we deserve as well. We treat other people with respect, and it uplifts the whole world, the entire universe, actually.
And conversely, if we're raised by racist caregivers, like I was, both my grandparents were racist, it's something that you have to rise above and see the bigger picture of. And like I said before, nothing's random. That was meant to happen. Being raised by racists wasn't just an unfortunate happenstance. That was meant for my soul's growth. And having to rise above that is something that was meant for me in this lifetime.
Absolutely. So you enter this planet Earth as a graduate student rather than in kindergarten. Like, in other words, some people here, they were brought up by loving, peaceful parents, and it was very easy for them. And it probably wasn't at first, because when you are brought up in that way, you think this is the way it is at first. They're telling me this, so it must mean that it's true. But you realize that it's not true. So that's beautiful.
Yeah. Another thing that seemed discombobulating and strange when I was growing up, but was actually a great benefit for me, was being raised by grandparents who believed in such diametrically opposed belief systems and religions that I thought it was all bunk. I realized not to get sucked into either one of them. And one was Jehovah's Witness. That was my grandmother, and the other was my grandfather was a Catholic, a converted Catholic, so he was very fervent, and they just butted heads all the time. I just couldn't see the logic in any of it. And my grandmother worked really hard to convince me too. I was this tiny little kid being read, instead of bedtime stories, being read the Watchtower and the Awake magazines from the Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, I was getting a full dose.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, it's funny, those are the racist ones.
Yes. It is funny,
it's
isn't it?
pretty amazing that they're speaking a loving God, which is God is all love and peace, would be, they would be this way if they aren't. Anyway.
Yeah. So all that dichotomy allowed me to see a lot of the complexity of human nature, and to not get sucked into it, to not buy into their belief systems.
That's
So
amazing that you were able to do that, because many people would not be able to do that.
yeah, I remember one instance just really emblazoned in my mind. I was a young child. Again, I was at the grocery store, or in the parking lot of the grocery store with my grandmother. I was in the passenger seat, and I think we were either arriving or leaving, but the car was parked, and a young black man approaches my side of the car, and my grandmother, in a panic, slams the button down to lock my side of the car, and he just smiles at me and grabs the carts and puts them in a row, because he works for the grocery store.
Oh gosh, could you imagine being a person of color and having to deal with that all the time? That they are us. We are all one. And so
Right.
your grandparents coming back as people of color, so they could experience that.
Right. Yeah, that's the whole law of karma, and the balancing that has to happen. If you commit murder, you're going to get murdered.
Right. Or feel the effects of that.
Right. So this was another interesting example. This one I read in the book. She Talks with Angels by Michelle White Dove, and she said that she had a client who came to see her with female problems. She was actually going to have to get a hysterectomy. And in a past life reading, Michelle was able to see that she was a Viking warrior who plundered and murdered and raped and pillaged. And there was one particular young woman that this Viking warrior man, he raped her and stabbed her in the abdomen and killed her while they're on a raid. And so it was, in this lifetime, multiple lifetimes later, payback time with female problems in that sensitive area because of what he in that lifetime had done.
That's amazing. I actually find with many of my clients, it's things that are happening in their present life as well that affect them mentally, spiritually, and physically. So sometimes I've seen the correlation over and over and over again. For example, say someone has breast cancer. It's not that well, our thoughts create our reality, but if you are having problems with your children, that's the mother issues, or not that you're causing it, but there's some issues that you're angry or they're hurting you, or your issues with your husband and so forth, it will manifest in that particular area. And I've seen it time and time again. If somebody is afraid of moving forward, stepping ahead, their legs, it affects their legs. They don't, they get it, they are not able to walk, their hips and so forth. And we talk about stepping forward. When we heal that, the ability to step forward and seeing that it's okay and so forth, the physical ailment is healed time and time again. I have I could go on and on. There was a woman who came to see me. She had stage 4 lung cancer. And we talked about, she came to me as a last resort. And I always say, you have to do whatever the doctors tell you. I have to say that so I don't get in trouble. But in addition to that, it should be mind, body, and spirit. So we talked about how her thoughts create her reality, and whatever she's thinking and feeling is creating whether or not she could heal her body or not. So I said, I don't care what the doctor says to you about your prognosis, because that's all he knows. He has seen this, and he gave her, I don't know, 3 months to live and so forth. And I talked to her about The Secret, to watch The Secret and so forth. And we talked about how to change her thoughts. Well, it's 20 years later. She's completely healed and she's absolutely fine. But we worked on her thoughts. I couldn't get in her head, to make her change her thoughts. I gave her, I told her how her thoughts are creating what happened, but that she was the only person that would be able to change her thoughts so she could heal herself. And I've seen it time and time again. So that wasn't a past life. It was present life. So we
Right,
have to
right.
work on our present life as well. Yes.
So our thoughts create our reality. Also, our thoughts determine whether we receive messages or we block the messages. And that was the message I received just a few months ago. There was a particular 1-minute Kabbalah wisdom audio that I was meant to receive, and it was that one. It was about, I forget the name in Hebrew of it, but it's a certain Hebrew phrase, and it roughly relates to the ability to receive. And when you have impure thoughts, you block your ability to receive. And when you're watching porn, or you're lusting over the neighbor's partner or whatever, you are lighting up that part of your brain that's the pleasure center, and you are dimming out everything else in your brain. And this is shown in brain scans. And from a spiritual standpoint, it's like you've turned off your antenna, your receiver, and you're only tuned in to the negativity and what you don't have. So that is something to address and work on your purity of thought as well as purity of word and deed, and make those all aligned.
Well, what happens, that's perfectly said, is we have to be more on par with the energy of God within us. And God is only love and peace, right? So we have to learn how to raise our vibration so it's more on par with the energy of God, of the angels, of our deceased loved ones. Because again, after we leave the physical body, we feel that oneness in an instant. It's pure love, no matter what you've done. You are one with God and the angels. You feel that connection, although you see what you've done. Let me explain, as we talked about before. So to be more on par with the energy of who we are, we have to learn forgiveness, be more compassionate. As you said, keep our thoughts pure and so forth. And there's many things that we can do. See through the eyes of another person. And the more we do that, the more we'll receive messages from our deceased loved ones and the angels, because we'll be on the same vibration. I say it's just like tuning into 1300 AM, but you want 3200 FM. You're not going to get that station, right? It's the same thing with our thoughts. If we're not on par with the God within us, we won't be able to receive the messages. Exactly what you said.
Right. And we can also work to clean things up in terms of not just our thoughts, but our energy centers, our chakras, clear our pineal gland, and essentially clear the visor inside of our mind so that we can see the messages that are coming, the clairvoyant messages, and also the clairaudient messages that are coming in through our hearing, which incidentally I did not know until this year, until starting to receive these messages, that for people, they typically hear them in their own voice.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. That was a bit surprising for me. And this is something that is now part of the mainstream knowledge base, which I find fascinating, because one of the most popular shows on Netflix right now is Manifest, and
Yeah.
they're receiving callings in their own voices.
Yes. Yeah. I was just watching that last night. Funny. Yeah.
Yeah. No coincidences again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a interesting concept here of clearing your chakras, clearing your visor, your pineal gland, and so forth. I actually did a session with the Angel Team, so angelteamhealing.com, who was referred to me by a person I trust who's very famous. I'm not going to mention his name, but I thought, okay, I'm going to give them a try, and whoa, I got the most amazing, profound visions that came that next morning in like ultra high definition, ultra high definition, surrounding me, and also with audio. And I knew they were prophetic, and they were warnings of sort, not like dire warnings, but just like, hey, heads up, these two things are important for you to be mindful of. One was a warning on us on travel, and yeah. So,
Yeah.
what are some of the things that people can do to clear their visor, their hearing, or whatever, so that they don't have any negative thought forms attached to them. They don't have any negative entities feeding off their energy and also blocking them. So they're keeping their thoughts as clean as possible. But you need help too. A lot of times you need to go to the physical therapy and not just use your in-home gym.
Well, you should see what I do every morning. First of all, I get up, and I'm not telling everybody to do this because I do this for a living to connect with deceased loved ones and the angels. But I get up at 4:45 a.m. every morning, and I meditate for a half an hour every day. And then I meditate again at night. The reason being is if your thoughts are going a mile a minute and your loved ones are speaking to you as thoughts, how are you going to differentiate that? So you have to learn how to tap into source energy. Meditation is listening to God and the angels. Praying is talking to God and the angels. And in any relationship, you need to listen as well as to speak. So I would say meditation is extremely important. And I know most of my clients and my friends, they say, oh, but my thoughts, I can't keep them quiet. It's okay. We are meant to think. So if you even just sit there every morning for 10 minutes with the intention of trying to quiet your thoughts, say you could focus on your breath. A very easy way of doing this, I just did this weekend with the ARE class, is learn how to, you inhale. I'll do it with you right now. You
Okay.
inhale with a count of four. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. And you repeat. That's very simple. So it's count of four. You inhale, hold it, exhale, hold it. And that is a way of meditating. And if you could do that for 5 minutes, start with 5 minutes. And hopefully your thoughts are not going a mile a minute at that time. If they are, it's okay. But what I tell people is when you're meditating, don't expect to receive the message during that time. Because if you're meditating, it's meant to quiet your thoughts. I meditate with so that I could connect later on in the day. It's like putting gas in your car so that you could drive later on in the day. That's why I meditate. Another thing I do is I clear my chakras every day. Now, a great thing I do in my office, and I could teach you how to do this. This is actually fun. Is you're the clock. Imagine you're the clock. I'm the clock, right? Your chakras are going clockwise on your body if they're going in the correct position. Okay, except in men, They go all clockwise except your crown chakra that normally goes in a male counterclockwise. I don't know why that is. It's just the way it is. So to clear yourself, you go, now I'm looking at you, so it's going, so normally I might be flipped over because I'm looking at you on the screen, but to my left is clockwise, okay? Am I flipped over? I don't know. To clear your chakras would be you go in the opposite direction with your hand, the energy of your hand. So if you go your heart chakra, you go counterclockwise to clear, say 21 times, okay?
Mhm.
And then you shake it off, and then you put it back in the correct position 21 times, slowly, and then shake it off. And you do it for all of your chakras, except you're going to go differently with your crown chakra because you're a male, but women would do the same thing throughout.
Got it. Okay.
I do this every day before I connect with deceased loved ones. I'm actually, when I'm on the phone confirming appointments, I'm on the phone. Hi, you have an appointment next week at 4 o'clock? Yes. And I'm telling, and I'm just clearing my chakras at the same time. Throat chakra is extremely important. You clear and then put it back in the correct position.
Oh, that's good. I like
It
that.
really works. And you know what's the best thing? If you have a pendulum,
Hmm.
it's really cool. You lie down and you could have your wife, I know she'll play the game with you. You put the pendulum over all the chakras. You could be lying down, and the pendulum should spin in the direction of whatever the chakra is going in. So if you put the pendulum on the root chakra, for example, it should, if it's going in the correct position, go clockwise. If it's not, you want to clear it. And then you go throughout all the chakras. Sometimes it doesn't even spin. That means, oops, this one is blocked. Let's clear that one out. Sometimes it goes in the wrong position. It goes counterclockwise normally. Now you want to clear that as well. Does that
Got
make
it.
sense?
It does. And I just learned about using the pendulum not even a week ago. It was I'm doing I think it's a 12-week long workshop taught by Sheila Gillette, who channels Theo, and she was a past guest on this podcast. And we worked on automatic writing in the last session and using a pendulum. And I did not know how to use a pendulum until that last session. So if you want to receive divination, you want to receive yeses and nos to questions, you have to first ask the pendulum. You're
Which
asking,
is
you're
yes.
asking your guides, really, or your higher self, but you essentially direct it towards the pendulum and say, please show me a yes. And it might be back and forth, towards and away from you. It might be horizontally the other way. It might be clockwise, might be counterclockwise. And then you ask to be shown a no. And for me, a yes was towards me and away from me, toward, in a straight line. But a no was not horizontally the other direction. It was actually clockwise.
Okay.
Yeah, so that
That's
was a no, and you're supposed to ask each time that you do a session because it'll change, and
yes.
then you can ask whatever questions you want. But you need to know what the yes and the no are first.
Exactly. You know what I do with my clients, and we do this at classes too. You take the pendulum, you put your energy on it first. So it's make sure you have your energy on it. And you just take, I wish I had one here, but I don't. You just take the pendulum and you say, my name is, and you say your name. So I say, my name is Karen Noé, and it usually goes clockwise. So that's my yes. Then you say, I make up a name. My name is Gertrude Lavari. And then it goes counterclockwise. So that's my no. It's interesting for those who have children. You could actually take the pendulum and you can see if they're lying or not. You don't, did you go out last night? And you could actually just play that silly game. And it actually says yes or no. It's really cool. But make sure
That
you put your energy on the pendulum first so that it has your energy on it. And then you ask your guides to help.
right, and if it has somebody else's energy, or you used it in a clearing or something like that to clean some energy, like I was instructed when I did this angel team session a few weeks ago to use that pendulum or a crystal to extract out some negative energy out of my finger, which is in the process of healing.
Yeah.
And that needed to be cleaned or cleansed by being put out in the sun for a period of time.
And
And
charged. It
yeah, these are all new for me. I'm learning all this stuff, and
it's
it's like,
amazing. And people
Yeah.
are blown away. They said, wow, I never knew, like you're saying, I never knew you could actually use a pendulum and it could tell me all these things. But yes, if you put it out in the sun or the moon, it clears it as well as recharges it, because crystals need to be recharged as well. So it's like when you recharge your phone, you have to recharge your crystals as well.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other topic. Like crystals
Yeah.
have technology, and so
Right.
if you study about the Atlanteans and how they were able to power their technology back in the day using crystals and all that. I know it sounds pretty out there for somebody who doesn't
I
believe in
know.
that sort of thing, but yeah.
I would like to give Donna Eden a lot of credit for all of this, the clearing the chakras and the pendulums. She has a wonderful book called Energy Medicine, and a lot of these techniques I am not taking credit for. She mentions these. So it's a wonderful book by Donna Eden. I just
Yes,
want,
and another great book that has a lot of stuff about animals specifically. The book is called Animal Speak.
oh, yeah, yeah.
And who's the author? I forget his name. Ted Andrews, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He's passed now, but amazing, amazing book. It seems to be the book that all mediums tend to reference. Is like that's the book to look up the meanings of different animals as totems or uh, messages if they show up kind of crossing your path or whatever.
Absolutely. There's also another one by Stephen Farmer. I believe it's called I'm not sure. Animal Speaks, or I'm not sure, but it's Stephen Farmer.
Oh, so Animal Spirit Guides, is
That's
that the
it.
book?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's also author of Power Animals.
Yes. That's the one I'm talking about. Power Animals. Yes.
Power Animals. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll include these in the show notes for this episode.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Now there's something I want to point out that I'm curious about. You mentioned you get up at 4:45 in the morning every morning. Why is it not 4:44? Because I get
Because
444
444 is,
angel numbers all the time. That
yes.
and 1111 and as well as 111.
You know something? First of all, it just happens that every morning I set the alarm for 4:45, but I get up at 4:44. So
Ah, you get
interesting
nudged.
saying that. So yeah. Wow, I never even, and I know that's an angel number, 444 or 1111,
Yeah.
even 222, whatever. If you consistently see a number over and over, it's the angel saying, "Hi, I'm here. I'm with you."
Yeah.
So,
Well, something I learned that an important distinction that I got was that it's not just, hi, I'm here. It's an invitation to receive more message, right? It's not just, hey, you're doing great. Keep up the good work. It's like, hey, I've got more for you. You can get entire downloads if you're ready for it.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and you also spoke about this in the interview with my wife Orion and how she received 1111 when she just happened to check her phone at her grandparents' graves where she had visited for the first time. I'm not going to spoil the story because it's phenomenal and she shares it in the interview. So definitely, listener, go check out that episode. Again, I'll include it in the show notes. But yeah, it's incredible. These numbers are not only non-random, they
Yeah.
have a meaning associated with them. And if you look up the meaning by just Googling, let's say 444 angel number, or if you look it up in, there's a great book by Doreen Virtue called Angel Numbers 101. Whatever the sources that you're getting, your guides, your angels, they all know where you're turning to, and they help guide you to the right answer, to the right meaning, so that you interpret it correctly.
Absolutely. And many times looking at a book really doesn't do it justice. It's what does that number mean to you? For example, I keep seeing the number 826 a lot. And whenever, I just keep seeing it, look on the billboard, the license plate cuts me off and it's 826. That was my childhood house. And my mom keeps showing her, keeps saying, I'm here, I'm with you. So it would have meaning to you, or a birth date, anniversary. It often can be 1111. That's just the angels, as we were saying, pay attention. I'm with you. I'm trying to tell you more. Connect. I'm willing to connect with you if you're willing to connect with me. So just be aware of those numbers that you see over and over again. That's one of the without a doubt signs that those in the celestial realm are giving us to let us know they're there.
Yeah, amazing. Now, I know we're running up on time here. Do you have time for one more question about soul contracts?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll make it fast. So, what is a soul contract, and how do we know what we contractually obligated ourselves to before we incarnated?
It's a wonderful question. When you get here, you know what you have a passion for, what gets you excited. You just say, oh my gosh, I have to speak, I have to do speaking, I have to do this or that, or I have to make amends with Uncle Joe. It could be something like that. But you know something that you just have to do. It's something within you. I'd say go for it. You listen to your intuition and trust yourself and do whatever it takes to fulfill your dream or to even make amends with Uncle Joe, whatever it is, you do it. Because we come here with that. If you don't, then you may have to come back in another life and deal with that again. And you'll feel more fulfilled if you do it right now. Do you feel that you have a soul contract right now?
Oh, I know that I do.
I
Yeah.
don't, but could you tell us about it?
Well, I'm meant to help people who are feeling disconnected from the creator, from their higher power, who feel kind of lost and not trusting that this is a friendly universe, and helping them to see the light and to connect. And that's part of my mission. And I experienced that in my childhood and through my early adult life so that I could have that relatedness and that relatability as an agnostic and somebody who is very scientific. I've studied biochemistry. I was going to become a professor, and I dropped out of my PhD. So I know a lot about that world, and I can build bridges. And so that's part of my soul contract. But there are also people that I meant to heal relationships that were in past lives with me. So yeah, it's a lot. I signed up for a lot, and I'm working through it.
It's beautiful that you're aware of it and you're listening and you're using your intuition to do it, to make it happen.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm working on my psychic abilities too, which I never thought that I was psychic. But we are, as you said, we are all psychic.
Absolutely. We have to raise our vibration so it's more on par with the energy of who we are, as we talked about before.
Yeah, and believe that we actually have that ability because we do co-create our reality. And if we believe it's only what you see is what you get,
Right.
well, you make that real.
It's more than believing, it's knowing without a doubt.
Yeah,
There's a big difference. In other words, knowing. If you're trying to manifest something, or you have to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled as if it's happening now, you feel it, you know it, you have that faith, that type of thing.
Yeah, it's beyond believing, as you said.
Yeah.
The way I like to frame it is it's certainty.
Yeah.
Certainty beyond logic.
Right.
Yeah, which is actually a term I learned in Kabbalah. Yeah,
Nice.
certainty beyond logic. Yeah. Wonderful. Well, how do our listeners learn from you? I know that you don't take new clients now. You got the 2-year-long waiting list. I'm going to figure out a way to get on your waiting list, though, even though you don't take on new clients. And how do they kind of step into your field of wonderful vibration and get lots of great knowledge and insights?
I'd love for them, any of my books. I've written 4 books, as well as the Angel Oracle deck that's coming out in November, to tap into any of those books, depending on what you'd like to do. One of my books, Your Life After Their Death, teaches you how to heal after loss, and how do you connect with your deceased loved ones? How do you raise your vibration so it's more on par with their energy and so forth? One of them is teaching you how to see through the eyes of another person, how to go through that life review right here and now, so you don't have to wait until it's too late to do that. And then the We Consciousness, I connected with Dr. Wayne Dyer's family. He has 8 children as well as his wife, and he came through for 2 years with them and gave the messages. They actually just wrote a book recently called The Knowing, and they wrote about our time together in the book as well. And then he came through with as a group consciousness called the We Guys to talk about how we're all interconnected.
Mm.
We're all one, and whatever we do to ourselves or another affects everyone. So, I have a lot of 4 books out, as well as I teach classes. They could go to my website at KarenNoé.com. That's KarenNoe.com. And you could click onto any of my classes, listen to my radio show, and so
Awesome. And you're teaching at the Omega Institute in October, so that's going to be amazing as well.
yes, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Karen. Thank you, listener. And yeah, just go out there and connect with God, connect with nature, with your fellow human beings, your fellow souls, and make it a great day.